Hey everyone, in today's video I want to talk you through my top travel hacks.
Please take a moment to jump over to mattgranger.com. You can check out my workshops and event page to see all the places I'm heading to around the world, and you can sign up to the mailing list to get all of the latest updates and videos as they hit the ground.
So at the moment I spend 4 or 5 months a year traveling the world, teaching photography, meeting people, running photography tours and whatnot. And over that time, I've put together a list in my head of things that make things easier. So today I want to run through them for you. Now keep in mind, some of these may go a little bit against airline policy, this or that, and they may inconvenience other people. It's just what's going to make things easiest for you. So think about if it's going to suit you and work for you in the way you like to travel and shoot. Let's get into it. First thing, and this is a simple one, once you are, you've bought your flights, you've done your research, you've got the best price that you can, do your online check-in as early as you can and try and get yourself the best seat. If you're the kind of person who doesn't want to be disturbing people but gets up a lot, grab an aisle seat. If it's an overnight flight and you don't want to get bumped into by the cart all night, then choose a window seat. And if you can choose one where there's already somebody on the aisle, then you choose the window. There's a good chance that middle seat is going to stay empty and you'll have a more comfortable flight. Second thing, when you get to the airport, whether you've done online check-in or not, go to that line. Generally, it's going to be much shorter, the bag drop-off counter. And I've done this 100 times. Even if I haven't done online check-in, you will never be turned away. So just go to whichever is the shortest queue. It tends to be that all the queues end up going to the same agents anyway. Once you get there, they still need to verify your detail, whether they're entering it or the system has pre-filled it for them. So just jump in the shortest queue and I guarantee you, you're gonna get through that process a lot faster. Now, when it comes to packing, I personally use hard shell cases, just normal luggage cases when I'm checking in my baggage. But that will give you some crush resistance, but it gives you no shake resistance. Your bags will be thrown around. So don't put anything that's fragile in there. All of my camera bodies, all of my lenses and things like that will be with me on the plane somehow, come hell or high water. But batteries, flashes, tripods, all of that stuff, I pack it in. If it's got some kind of crush potential damage, then I'll wrap it in some clothing, but check all of that stuff in and just bring the fragile stuff with you. Now, hand luggage is a tricky one. A lot of airlines only give you like 7 kilos of luggage, so this is where I can really add some value to you. For example, on this recent trip, I was taking along an A7R, an A7S, 3 lenses, plus my Hasselblad system with 3 lenses, plus flashes and memory cards and tripods and all of this stuff. So I had way more than my allowed check-in and carry-on hand luggage. My carry-on realistically probably weighed about 20 kilos, but here's the way to get around it. It's quite rare actually that airlines weigh your carry-on luggage. So when you're lined up in line, just watch the other counters and see if there's anyone who is insisting on people putting their carry-on luggage, on to be weighed. If they are, just step out of the line for a moment and then put all of it onto yourself. It may sound crazy, but I'll have a single or double camera strap and I'll put my biggest and heaviest camera and lens combo onto me. Then I'm normally wearing a jacket when I go to check in. I'll fill every pocket with lenses and batteries and this and that. So when they weigh the bag is pretty much empty. There's no restriction on what can be on your person at the time, even if all your pockets are bulging and it's ridiculous. I've often had 4 cameras, 5 lenses, 6 little hard drives and 100 batteries stuffed into different pockets so that I can get through the check-in process. Then once you get it on, you don't want to have a huge bag, but being a bit overweight, I don't feel bad about. If I was carrying 5 different carry-on bags, I would, because then you're intruding on the other passenger's space. The other tip is also, if you're traveling with a laptop, take a separate laptop bag, like a little businessman bag. Here's the one I use, it's the Think Tank one. I've never, ever in my hundreds of flights had that one weighed. So if it comes to it and you don't have enough pockets, have your laptop in there, put all of your heaviest equipment into the laptop bag and have it bulging. then let them weigh your roller bag or your backpack, whatever you're traveling with. They never weigh that laptop bag in the same way that they never weigh a woman's handbag. So if you are traveling with your partner and they happen to be a woman, then throw a bunch of your gear into their handbag. It never gets weighed. The other thing is, once you've left that check-in counter and everything's okay, nobody else cares. The airline staff at the X-ray counter, all of that, they're working for the airport, not for your airline. So they don't care if your check-in luggage actually has 50 kilos or 100 pounds worth of stuff in it. They just want to make sure you don't have any liquids or flammables. So as soon as you've done the check-in and you're out of sight of that desk, then reposition everything so that it's nice and secure. And I like to lock my carry-on bag that it carries all my cameras, because if I fall asleep for 6 hours on the plane, who's to know who's rummaging through that overhead bin? In terms of what to pack, carrying around every piece of equipment you have just in case you might need it, it's a really tempting thing to do, but it's also quite foolish in my opinion. Go through and look at your previous travel experiences and see what equipment you actually used. If you're carrying 4 different lenses, but then when you check your metadata, you find that pretty much everything was shot with your 24-70 and that you only took 10 out of 5,000 shots with your 70-200, don't carry that big 2.5 kilo piece of glass with you for the whole trip unless there's some specific thing that you're going to be shooting where you think it's going to be handy on this trip. Over time, I've whittled my bag down a lot. I used to travel with everything in the kitchen sink, and it may still seem that way, but now when I go away, every piece of equipment that I take gets used. Also, in terms of packing, don't skimp on charges. You might find, like I often do, that you're out shooting all day long. You're getting home at 10 o'clock at night, then you're getting up the next morning at 6 a.m. So if you only bring 1 battery charger, but you have 3 batteries that you've run dead during the day, that means you're gonna need to get up during the night to recharge things. So I like to bring enough charges so that I could recharge a full day's worth of stuff, including, phone batteries, including camera batteries, and, AA batteries for whatever purposes. So charges for all of them, and then you may actually wanna bring a power board or a power strip so you can have that all plugged in at once. I like to have that right beside my bed, so if I do wake up, I can glance and check that everything's charging rather than waking up in the morning, finding that nothing has charged. Now, this may seem a little bit camp, but if you want to get a good night's sleep on the plane, I can't recommend highly enough taking along your own earbuds. And I use these little travel masks. They're so camp, but they're so effective. They actually have pink polka dots on them that you put it on, it's a paper mask, and then it warms up to like 40 degrees Celsius and gives off the scent of lavender. If you're tired after a long trip or at the start of a long trip, I generally am asleep within 10 minutes. Pop the eye mask on. It's a sign to the staff that you don't want to be disturbed. Make sure your belt is on and visible, and then I'll often get a good long stretch of sleep on the plane. Talking of sleep, there's all kinds of different approaches out there on how you should overcome jet lag. I still sometimes go by the moral of, if I arrive in a country, I'll try to stay up the whole day until like 10 o'clock or midnight and then go to sleep. I think that's a good way to start to get yourself onto the timeline. But I've added to that now, and anytime I can sleep on a plane, just do it. I used to be worried that, if I sleep 4 hours on the plane, then I won't be able to sleep when I get to the country. The biggest problem with jet lag, other than resetting your body clock and what time zone it thinks it's on, is just that you're, sleep deprived. So if you can catch an hour or 6 hours on the plane, absolutely take it. Then stay up as long as you can on that following day until, as close to midnight or your normal bedtime as you can. Then go to sleep, and just keep trying to do that, only letting yourself sleep in the evenings, not during the rest of the day. And other than Sydney to New York, I can normally get over things within a day or two. Sydney to New York still usually takes me 3 or 4 days. Insurance. I so often get asked about insurance, and I'm sorry, but I won't recommend a specific insurer because, who knows what's going to end up happening. But what I suggest for you is make sure you check that your portable valuables, whether they're listed as home contents, they're attached to your car policy, or you have a business policy, make sure they're portable and that they're covered overseas. A lot of policies have a no questions asked, so if it's lost or stolen, you just need a police report. If it's damaged, whether it was in your own country, your own home, or overseas, it's all covered the same way. But you want to be clear on that, and if your current policy for your gear won't cover it in the country you're going, then get the travel insurance. For myself, I have home insurance, plus I have business insurance and gear insurance. I have public liability insurance. Then I have a separate travel policy that doesn't cover my equipment, but it covers me for all those medical things, and I have an annual policy for that. Works out a lot cheaper to just have it worldwide and annual than buying individual trips for me. But my gear's covered in Australia as a professional, but that gives me coverage all around the world. Works out much cheaper doing it that way than trying to have, you know, tens of thousands of dollars worth of equipment covered under a travel policy. Generally, in my experience, they charge a much higher premium because it's way out of the norm for them to have, you know, people traveling with that much, especially electronic equipment. In terms of accommodation when you're traveling, I suggest that you really think about what it is you need. For me, my priorities these days are a comfortable bed, a safe neighborhood, fast Wi-Fi if possible, and if possible, you know, I still do like a bathtub. At the end of a trip at least, it's good to be able to soak my feet. But the main things really for me are bed, security, and internet access. So, you know, the difference between a 3-star and a 5-star hotel for me generally absolutely not worth it. If I'm traveling with my wife or, you know, for another purpose, then maybe something nicer is. And I've gotten really into using Airbnb. I'll pop a link in the caption below. That's my referrer code. I'm staying in an Airbnb right now in Santiago. You can often find, especially in slightly cheaper countries, the cheap hotels I've found can be a little bit questionable, but then the nice hotels are kind of priced the same all the way around the world. Whereas with an Airbnb, it's often, you know, because the people who own it are locals earning a local wage, you can get, like this place I'm in now, this beautiful studio for a fraction of what it would have cost to get an equivalent hotel in such a cool district. Really fast Wi-Fi, and you have the whole place to yourself, which is especially handy if you want to be able to do photo shoots and use the space for it. This is, you know, 5 times the size of a hotel room that I could possibly afford, so lots of opportunities for shooting. Along with that, another recent kind of social app out there is Uber, and I really, really love it. It's not available in all states in America, and it's not available in all countries, but where it is available, you know, I find it so much more convenient than using local cabs a lot of the time. One, I think almost every time the driver has been really friendly. There's no BS with price. You don't need to tip because it's all automatically billed. You don't even need to have cash because you just rate them at the end of the trip and they get paid via the credit card that you have linked. I really, really love it. The cars come to you. You can see online tracking. You see the reviews of the person. It's safe as well because you know that Tom, who's driving the Toyota Prius with this number plate, is coming to get you. And then the system has a record of where they picked you up. You hear a lot of horror stories about people being taken to where they hadn't asked to be taken in normal taxis or non-metered cabs trying to rip people off. Uber is really clear and straightforward. I have no affiliation with them. I just really, really love that service. Another packing one is clothing. Do some research, know the time of year that you're going, and I really recommend using light layers. It's, you know, having one huge heavy jacket is great, but being able to unzip one of the 3 tops you have on is a much better way to be able to modulate your heat. On this trip, I've gone from blazing sunshine and getting sunburnt to snowstorms at 4,700 meters in the Andean mountains. And I didn't pack that much clothing. I just packed things that were easily layered. You know, a really warm singlet or t-shirt to go under your clothing, long sleeve tops, then a down type jacket, and then a windbreaker type jacket, some gloves, beanie, that kind of thing. You can cover yourself without really needing to bring a huge amount of equipment. If you are going for shooting, try to beat the rush. So organize your day to get there before all of the other tour groups get there. For our photography tours, we'll often try to get as soon as somewhere opens. Other tours may start with a leisurely breakfast, you know, your normal Kentucky tour or something, and then by the time you're getting to the first attraction is like 11. We often start at like 4, 5, 6 in the morning so that we can cover the drive we need to get there whilst the light is still good and the place isn't overrun with people. So get an idea of where it is you're going, what's going to be the nice time to shoot, and how you can best avoid the crowds. In terms of having internet access whilst you're abroad, there are some variations, especially if you're in Europe or South America, where there are now some companies that give you roaming across the whole region. But generally, I find the best way once you get to a new country, if you're going to be there for a week or so, is to go buy a local SIM. You'll often get the best deal. You might pay $2 for a week's worth of internet data, or you may pay $30 for a month. It depends on what country you're in. But if you want to have data whilst you're on the run, I haven't found any roaming plans that can compete with just getting a local prepaid SIM card. Backup, backup, backup. You want to make sure you've brought along enough and safe options for your backups on the road. Best practice, and I know this isn't going to be possible for everyone, if you have enough SD cards or compact flash cards to get you through the trip, you can save yourself from erasing them, back them up onto your computer, back them up onto an external hard drive, and then once you're in a location that has good internet access, select out the best of your shots and upload them to the cloud or whatever kind of online Dropbox system that you may have. Again, my Dropbox is in the link below, in the caption below. And that way you could potentially have 3 digital versions plus a cloud version of your stuff. If you do need to delete the cards, then do it once you're getting low at the end, once your cards are starting to get full, and then make it really obvious for yourself. I'd like to use a system of cards that are facing up, are ready to use, cards that are facing down have been filled. That way you don't start shooting and then realize, I've just put 10 shots on this, but all the rest need to go, and then trying to delete off 200 one by one because you don't want to lose the 10 that you've just taken. So make it nice and easy for yourself about when you format the cards and have a clear system so you don't get confused. Being a people photographer and nude photographer, people are what make me tick. So I really recommend, if you're going to new places around the world, take the opportunity, don't take over the top risks, but do go and meet the locals. Even if it's the waiter at your restaurant, engage in a conversation. If there's somebody on the street you want to take a photo of and you're not sure, go and try and strike up a conversation, even through broken language barriers, to get a little bit of a rapport going. That's the kind of meaningful interactions that are going to really make a trip for you. And then when you look at the shot of the interesting man or woman that you met in a different country, having that backstory and remembering Jose or Maria or whoever it was, and the little encounter that you had can really make the difference. 2 more tips for shooting whilst you're on the road. One is keep checking your histogram. If you're indoors and outdoors and all different lighting situations, looking at your rear screen can give you an inaccurate reflection of what's actually in your file. Especially, I find with these Sony mirrorless that I'm shooting with at the moment, in bright sunlight, it's really quite hard to see them. A histogram gives you a nice overview of your actual exposure. If you don't know how a histogram works, check out the link in the caption below. I'll link to a video I did on that one. And the second tip, look at the wide shot, look at the medium shot, and look at detail shots. So you might go to an amazing plaza, get the wide shot with the cathedral and the towers, then go in and get individual shots of the towers and cathedral and the different buildings in the plaza, then look at little details, the door knocker on the door, the hands of the guy selling the popcorn on the corner. All of those different things, the textures and little details really bring out the nuance in a city and will separate out, for example, one city square from another by looking in at those little individual details. See what the different vendors are selling, get shots of the handicrafts and all of that kind of thing. Together, that tells a nice, rich story. And something that I've really learned the hard way is, if you do have time at the end of the trip, give yourself a good day, day and a half to relax and unwind after all of the formalities are done. I've just run my second tour in Peru, and that's why I'm now in Santiago for 36 hours to unwind. It gives me an opportunity to go through and make sure I have backed up all of my cards when I'm not on the continual cycle of shoot, sleep, get up, shoot, sleep, get up. It also means that I can get laundry done, so I'm not going home with a bag full of stinking stuff, and I can really take stock of everything. Often, because of the rush, the way my camera bag and my luggage bag is packed gets more and more disorganized. This is an opportunity to go back on that, make sure everything's under control, make sure I haven't forgotten anything. Maybe even, I like to do this, go through and take a look at my shots and see if there are any gaps there that I might actually be able to go back to get a couple of little things along the way. So I hope that was helpful for you. Travel is an absolute pleasure of mine. I know it's not for everyone, and I know not everyone has the opportunity to travel often as I do, certainly. So if you do get the opportunity, take the time to research, follow these tips, try and make it a successful trip for yourself. And really, preparation, planning, and being ready for everything is going to help you be in the moment and enjoy it without worrying that you're going to miss something. I'd love to hear your other travel hacks that you'd like to suggest for people. Leave them in the comments below. I'll see you soon.